As dawn broke on the morning of the 20th of June, 1944, USS Slater DE 766 was underway with her fellow destroyer escorts, USS McCoy Reynolds DE 440, USS Walter C. Wann DE 412, and USS Abercrombie DE 343. Reynolds was acting as guide of the training convoy as they underwent anti-submarine search exercises. Once these were completed, the four ships turned for Bermuda and rang up a 15-knot speed. Just before 1200, Slater anchored in Great Sound Bay, Bermuda in 9 fathoms of water, with 28 fathoms of chain. At 1500, Charles Franklin Jr., Seaman First Class, was presented with the charges against him of being AWOL, absent without leave. The following morning, Captain's Mass was held. Woodrow W. Truening, Seaman Second Class, lost 10 liberties for shirking duty. Donald D. Ralphs, Sonarman Third Class, was awarded deck court for falling asleep on watch. Leonidas Russell Jr., Fireman First Class, was given a warning for acting disobedient to a petty officer. At 0935, a summary court-martial met to try the case of Charles Franklin Copen Jr., Seaman Second Class. Lieutenant Harold Poulsen acted as the senior member. They adjourned at 1100. Shortly after, an inspection party from USS Taylor, DE 413, came aboard, led by Lieutenant Commander Cullinan. Now, the ship that's mentioned, the Taylor, is possibly incorrect. DE 413 was USS Samuel B. Roberts, and she was in Bermuda at the same time as Slater. However, her records show that the Sammy B departed Bermuda on the 19th or 20th of June, 1 or 2 days prior to this decklog entry. USS Taylor was a destroyer during World War II, but at this point in the war, she was already in the Pacific. Anyways, the inspection concluded at 1555, and the boarding party departed. Slater weighed anchor and departed her mooring at 1604 with the captain at the con and navigator on the bridge. She rejoined her sister ships from the prior day and positioned herself in column number 2. On the 22nd, Slater was astern of Wann, Carter, and Abercrombie. The Sumner-class destroyer, USS English, DD 696, took over OCE and guide from Reynolds and assumed station at the head of the convoy. For about 4 hours, the convoy conducted hunter-killer exercises before finishing at 1625, and Reynolds resumed OCE. Slater then positioned herself second in the column, 500 yards astern of Reynolds. Shortly after, Reynolds and English left the convoy, and Slater assumed OCE and guideship duties. Lieutenant Commander Blanc then ordered the convoy to disperse and sail independently for port. She arrived in Great Sound Bay at 1938 and anchored in 9 fathoms of water and rode 28 fathoms of chain. At 0845, on the morning of the 23rd, another captain's mass was held. It seems a gambling ring was broken up. G.F. Figueredo, Seaman First Class, G.W. Clark Jr., Seaman First Class, H.E. Burrow, Motor Machinist Mate Third Class, F.A. Corona, Ship's Cook Third Class, L. Rosenstock, Motor Machinist Mate First Class, were all awarded deck court. An inspection of the motor whaleboat discovered the first aid gear to be unsuitable for use due to water damage, and a Liberty party embarked on APC 89 shortly before 1200 and then returned to 1830. That night, Thomas P. O'Neill, Seaman Second Class, and Gerard T. Spilassi, Fireman First Class, were transferred to the Naval Operating Base in Bermuda, under guard of A.C. Elkins, coxswain, for confinement in the disciplinary barracks. W.T. Lovelace was ordered to be confined to the ship. Deck court met to try the men found to be gambling the next morning. They adjourned at 1100 to decide their fate. W.H. Edmonds, Steward's Mate First Class, accidentally cut his left hand between the first and second fingers with a knife when he tried to open a can of milk. He was taken to USS Hamel, AD 20, for medical treatment. J. William Welks, Storekeeper First Class, and Dennis D. Harris, Electrician's Mate Second Class, left the ship for shore patrol duty in Hamilton, Bermuda at 13:38, and they returned 4 hours later. Following morning muster on the 25th, Captain Rooney, Chief of Staff of the DDDE Shakedown Task Group, came aboard for an inspection. He departed at 0950, and shortly after, O'Neill and Spillassi, who had spent 2 days in the disciplinary barracks, returned to the ship. Lieutenant Don E. Ehrman also came aboard Slater for transportation. At 12:25, the floating crane Mary Ann and YST-22 came alongside port. A German torpedo from the captured German U-boat U-505, now a museum in Chicago, was loaded onto Slater's O1 deck and secured. Once everything was ready, Slater cast off and departed Bermuda at 17 knots, bound for Maryland. Sailing independently, Condition 2, Material Condition Baker, was set, and 2 men were added to the sick list, A. Cusati, Seaman Second Class, and M.M. Hamilton, Fireman First Class. An unidentified aircraft was spotted at 14:15 at 19 miles, and Slater's crew began tracking it. Within 5 minutes, it was determined to be friendly. With everyone on high alert, understandable considering the cargo they were transporting and, of course, being alone, a sound contact was made at 15:39. General quarters was sounded, and all men manned their battle stations. It wasn't uncommon for ships to still be attacked by German U-boats off the coast of the United States at this point in the war. A search plan was enacted, but her crew must have determined the contact to be a school of fish because the ship was secured from general quarters at 15:48. A life raft was spotted adrift, but no one was found to be inside. Since it was considered a danger to maritime shipping, Slater's 3-inch caliber deck guns opened fire to sink it. At 16:38, 4 depth charges and 24 plaster-loaded hedgehogs were fired for testing. An unidentified ship was spotted at 18:43, but they correctly identified themselves as friendly. Slater then continued her solo voyage up the east coast to deliver the captured German acoustic torpedo to the scientists in Maryland. Thanks for watching another week in Slater's deck log. Continue tuning in each week as we trace Slater's movement through World War II. Next week, Slater and her crew will continue their trek to Maryland, and then on to Boston, where her crew will receive some much-needed liberty. Until next week, take care.